You're watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible. Farmers see big paydays. Green finance takes shape in the Caribbean, and Wall Street rides a wave of deals and tensions. Hello and welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, June 18, 2025. I'm Yanil Wood. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the local news, Alex Portal delivers Jamaican $100 million in earnings to farmers in the first 4 months of 2025. On the regional front, CARICOM and the International Finance Corporation ink a groundbreaking agreement to develop the first ever regional green finance taxonomy for the English-speaking Caribbean. And over on the global stage, Wall Street ends the day with mixed results as a major biotech buyout sparks a rally. Earnings exceed expectations and energy stocks surge amid geopolitical tensions. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after this break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMax possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMax Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
We're here to open a savings account for my son John. I really want him to start saving and managing his own money.
And I need for Safe to visit my father in New York.
Okay, based on what you said and our risk assessment, he will qualify for simplified customer due diligence requirements. I'll need your ID, proof of income, TRN, and John's ID as well.
Okay, here you go.
Opening an account is easier than you think using simplified customer due diligence requirements, also called CDD.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-923-5111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading. Better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with the latest news in agribusiness locally. The Agri-Linkages Exchange Alex portal delivered $100 million in earnings to farmers during the first 4 months of 2025. This was disclosed by Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett during his contribution to the 2025-2026 sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Alex is a digital platform designed to connect local farmers directly with hotels and other food service providers. The initiative is a collaboration between the Ministries of Tourism and Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, spearheaded by the Tourism Enhancement Fund, TEF, and the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA.
Agricultural Linkages Network, and I think the Minister of Agriculture will relate to this one very well. A digital platform created by us, another first in the tourism industry, that now has over 2,000 small farmers directly connected to the hotels and achieving over $1.2 billion of sales to date. This has never happened in the history of tourism in the entire Caribbean region. Jamaica has led the way.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett. He, however, noted that these figures represent only a fraction of what can be achieved. The portal is expected to facilitate up to 3 million kilograms of produce this year, valued at $450 million. The minister also referenced a study indicating that the market value of fresh fruits and vegetables exceeds $363 billion. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Tourism is reviewing several key pieces of legislation to strengthen growth and development in the sector. In his contribution to the sectoral debate, Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett revealed that the Jamaica Tourist Board Act is now being reviewed as part of this process.
We have to develop now the industry through policies and programs and new strategic approaches. And so we are reviewing a number of legislative arrangements in the industry to enable the capacity for the growth and development of which we speak. The Jamaica Tourist Board, in its 70th anniversary, Mr. Speaker, is now reviewing its 70-year-old act. And I'm very pleased to announce, Madam Speaker, that next week we will bring to this House the repeal of the Tourist Board Act and indeed present a virtually new act that will guide the industry into the future.
Minister Bartlett also emphasized the importance of reviewing current legislation to reflect the changes undertaken over the last 7 decades.
Challenges are great, and we have increased the types of involvement, the range of involvement, and indeed, Madam Speaker, we have to respond to the innovation of our time. So many changes have taken place over the last 70 years. So many new experiences have emerged. So many new systems have emerged. so many new practices too, and so many new business models. And we need to step up now and to provide the legislative and regulatory arrangements to be able to facilitate these development, to expand these development, and to provide scope for further innovation and development.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett. The new act contains modernized provisions in keeping with current realities and strengthens the enforcement provisions that ensure Jamaica maintains its reputation for quality tourism experiences. The update will also enhance the JTB's ability to effectively regulate the sector, promote Jamaica as a visitor destination, and respond to emerging trends and challenges in global tourism. Turning now to developments in Jamaica's housing sector. The National Housing Trust has rolled out its revised loan limits 2 weeks ahead of schedule. As of June 16, 2025, contributors can now access the increased loan limits announced by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness during the 2025-2026 budget debate. The Prime Minister had initially indicated that the new benefits would take effect July 1. However, the National Housing Trust has moved to implement the increase sooner than expected. Under the revised system, the individual loan limit for open market purchases have been increased to $9 million. 2 co-applicants may access up to $17 million and 3 co-applicants up to $23 million. For units being sold at $14 million or less, a new special loan limit of $12 million will be available to single applicants making such purchases. Meanwhile, other policy changes, such as the expanded home grant, reductions in service charges, and lower deposit requirements, will take effect July 1, as previously announced. The measures are expected to improve the affordability of contributors making purchases on the open market, as well as contributors engaged in construction. In the meantime, existing NHT mortgagors will also benefit from increases. Starting June 16, the NHT homeowners loan for existing mortgagors and homeowners will increase from $3.5 million to $5 million, where 2 co-applicants will be able to access up to $10 million. Additionally, the waiting period to access a second loan benefit from the NHT for home improvement purposes will be reduced from 10 to 7 years. Now to trading news from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 95 stocks traded on the JSE Wednesday, of which 36 advanced, 38 declined, and 21 traded firm. Leading the winners were Caribbean Cream, Caribbean Assurance Brokers, Stationery and Office Supplies, and ISP Finance Services, while leading the losers were Regency Petroleum, Kintyre Holdings, JFP Limited, and R.A. Williams Distributors. The main index declined by 598.79 points, or 0.19%, to close at 311,055.40. The junior market index also declined, but by 11.33, or 0.34%, to close at 3,357.29. And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard. In today's Market Education Feature, we'll be discussing the term sunrise industries. A sunrise industry refers to an emerging sector or business that is in its early development stage and demonstrates strong potential for rapid expansion. Characterized by high growth rates, a surge in new startups, and significant venture capital investment, these industries attract considerable interest from investors due to their promising long-term growth opportunities. Examples of sunrise industries include alternative energy, which gained attention in 2003 and 2007, social media and cloud computing, which surged in 2011 and 2012, and blockchain technology, which emerged between 2013 and 2017. Other notable sunrise sectors include information technology and clean energy. The market education feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. And that's it for our market education feature and the end of the local segment. Please stay with us. The regional business news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments. Welcome back, and now for the regional business news. The Caribbean Community CARICOM Committee of Central Bank Governors and the International Finance Corporation, IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, have announced plans to jointly develop the region's first green finance taxonomy. Under a cooperation agreement announced earlier today, both entities will work together to establish a standardized classification system for green assets and investments across the English-speaking Caribbean, creating a clear pathway for increased climate finance, private sector investment, and green job creation. The taxonomy will serve as a foundational tool to define what qualifies as a green investment, allowing financial institutions, regulators, and investors to align on credible, climate-friendly financing. The objective is to deepen access to green capital markets and support countries' national climate targets amid intensifying environmental threats. Chairman of the CARICOM Committee of Central Bank Governors and Governor for the Central Bank of Barbados, Dr. Kevin Greenidge, says this partnership with IFC represents a pivotal moment for the Caribbean's financial resilience and climate adaptation efforts. He adds that while our region contributes less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions, we face disproportionate climate impacts. By establishing clear green finance guidelines, we're creating the infrastructure needed to channel more private capital toward climate-resilient projects, from renewable energy systems to hurricane-resistant infrastructure. The taxonomy will be developed by IFC's Financial Institutions Group Advisory Services Unit for Latin America and the Caribbean, in coordination with its Country Advisory and Economics team. The framework will be aligned with international best practices and informed by regional stakeholder input, including banks, regulators, and supervisory bodies. Chairman of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, and Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pare, is sounding the alarm on stalled efforts to complete the OECS single economic space, warning that failure to establish the long-promised free movement of goods could have serious economic consequences for the region's citizens. Speaking at the 7th sitting of the OECS Assembly on Tuesday, Prime Minister Pare says while the OECS has made significant strides in enabling the free movement of people across its 9 member states, the framework for the free circulation of goods remains unfinished, with the delay undermining regional integration and economic growth.
The work on the free circulation of goods commenced several years ago. We knew then how critical it was for the OECS to move beyond the existing free movement of goods and people framework. to cement the single space by establishing a regime that would ensure goods would move without fetter once they satisfied formalities at the regional border. I will not dwell on the tardiness that has attended the introduction of this regime. Suffice it to say, the free circulation of goods is a natural corollary to the free movement of people and the establishment and operation of businesses in the single financial and economic states. We must get it done.
Peer further warned that this inaction could translate into real hardship for citizens already grappling with high inflation and cost of living pressures.
The introduction of tariffs in our economic space will further put more pressure on the quality of life of our people if we do not do something now. And importantly, we must do so with the collective responsibility of this Assembly and the Assembly of the OECS parliamentarians.
OECS Chairman and Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Peer. In other news, the Bahamas has made a robust return to international capital markets, successfully raising $1.067 billion through an 11-year US dollar denominated bond. The issuance is part of a strategic effort to repurchase $767 million in outstanding euro bonds while funding key national development initiatives. The new bond, which carries a coupon and reoffer yield of 8.25%, was met with strong investor appetite following a 3-day global roadshow that engaged over 60 institutional accounts across North America, Europe, and the Middle East. The order book closed 3.9 times oversubscribed, underscoring renewed confidence in the Bahamas' economic reforms and improving credit fundamentals. Officials say the transaction significantly strengthens the country's debt profile, extending the average maturity of its euro bond portfolio by 2.1 years and reducing principal repayments by $451 million over the next 3 years. Most of the proceeds will go toward the associated liability management operation, while the remainder will support infrastructure and development priorities. This marks the Bahamas' first international bond issuance since 2022, bolstered by recent credit outlook upgrades from both Moody's and Fitch in April this year. And from Bahamas, we go to Trinidad and Tobago for trading news from the TTSE. 16 securities traded on the TTSE Wednesday, of which 5 advanced, 3 declined, and 8 traded firm. Leading the winners were Prestige Holdings, National Enterprises, Agostinis Limited, and Unilever Caribbean, while the losers were First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, National Flour Mills, and Massey Holdings. Other results of the day include the All-TNT Index advancing by 1.04 to close at 1,506.11. The Composite Index advancing by 0.54 to close at 1,034.14. And the Cross-Listed Index and the SME Index both remained unchanged at 74.07 and 91.81, respectively. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment with Rondine Williams is up next.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. In international news, the Eurozone's consumer price inflation eased to 1.29% year-on-year in May, down from 2.2% in April. This marks the first time since September 2024 that inflation has dropped below the European Central Bank's 2% target. The decline was largely driven by a sharp slowdown in services inflation, which fell 3.2% from 4%, its lowest since March 2022. In contrast, food, alcohol, and tobacco prices accelerated slightly, rising 3.2% compared to 3% in April. Meanwhile, core inflation, which excluded volatile food and energy prices, eased to 2.3%, the lowest reading since January 2022. With price pressures cooling, analysts say that this could prompt the ECB to pause or slow down further interest rate hikes. And across the channel, the United Kingdom is also seeing a mild easing in inflation. The UK's annual inflation rate edged down 3.4% in May from 3.5% in April, matching market forecasts. A sharp slowdown in transport costs, including a 5% drop in airfares and fall in fuel prices, drove the decline. There was also a correction in vehicle excise duty data, which had inflated April's numbers. Inflation in housing and household services eased slightly to 6.9%, while services inflation slowed to 4.7%. However, food and drink prices rose to 4.4%, driven by sweets and ice cream, and furniture prices saw their sharpest increase since late 2023. On a monthly basis, the CPI rose 0.2%. Meanwhile, in the United States, the housing market continues to feel the pressure of high borrowing costs and market uncertainty. U.S. housing starts dropped 9.8% month over month in May, reaching their highest level since May 2020 at 1.256 million units. The downturn was led by a steep 30.4% plunge in multifamily construction, while single-family starts barely budged with a 0.4% gain. The Northeast saw the sharpest regional decline at 40%. Permits, a key indicator of future construction, also fell 2% to 1.393 million, marking a four-year low, while multifamily permits rose slightly. Single-family permits fell by 2.7%. All regions but the Midwest saw permitting slowdowns. Even though mortgage rates dipped, averaging 6.84% for a 30-year fixed loan, mortgage applications dropped, reflecting weaker buyer sentiments amid geopolitical and economic uncertainty. And still in the U.S., Wall Street had a turbulent day with biotech buyouts, earning wins, and energy concerns moving markets. Jabil Inc. surged nearly 12% after beating earnings expectation and raising full-year guidance, buoyed by strong demand and its ties to Apple. In contrast, solar company Sunrun plummeted 40% after reports that President Donald Trump's tax bill could phase out renewable energy incentives. JetBlue Airways fell 3.4% as it announced cost-cutting measures and warned it may not break even this year. Valero Energy rose 2% as oil prices jumped 5.2% due to Middle East tensions, boosting energy stocks. And in biotech, Viver Therapeutics soared 79% on news that Eli Lilly was acquiring the company in a $1.3 billion deal, offering a shareholder a 68% premium. The acquisition is expected to close in Q3. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
Welcome back, and now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Alex Portal delivers Jamaican $100 million in earnings to farmers in the first 4 months of 2025. Regionally, CARICOM and IFC Inc. agreement to develop the first ever regional green finance taxonomy for the English-speaking Caribbean. And internationally, Wall Street ends the day with mixed results, big gains, big losses, and a $1 billion biotech buyout. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Rondine Williams and the entire production team, I'm Yanil Wood, thanking you for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.